Okay, so we're going to move on. We've got that basic drum pattern that we made in the last video, and you should have your own one. And we're going to look briefly at recording audio, still in the session view. So we're making clips that later on we can arrange. So let's have a quick look at the I/O setup. Just very briefly, if you, I'll just hide that and do it this way. So we're going to go to Live Preferences, and the shortcut there is Command comma. And we won't go through all of this, but just quickly in the audio device section, this is my interface. You'll always have built-in microphone and input there, as well as your built-in output. So if nothing else, you'll have those built-in options. I'm going to use the interface. I might just bring my buffer size down just to make sure there's less latency, and it actually gives you a bit of an idea of your latency there. So let's go ahead, and so that's the preferences side of things. The I/O setup is here in each track, and you can show and hide that with this tiny little I/O button here if you want to get rid of it. So just briefly, there's quite a few options here, particularly in terms of resampling and internal routing, but we're going to use an external input because we're getting something in from outside this time. So I'm going to record something with a microphone. And you can see here, as I'm talking, that my microphone's already registering in live. The other nice thing is that despite the input you've got chosen, you'll be able to see where the audio is. So if I had 2 selected, you can see there's nothing happening, but you'll always see 1. So, you know, if there's ever any confusion about whether a signal's coming in, you'll be able to see it here and choose the right input. At the moment, I'm not monitoring this in live because my monitor's off, so that's why this is grayed out. So the signal's coming in, but my monitoring is off. So if you're using, for example, your laptop microphone to record something, you would want to mute the monitoring unless you had headphones on, of course. So it's pretty straightforward, otherwise you'll get feedback. I can turn mine in because I've got headphones on and I'm using my interface, and you'll probably hear my voice change through this. It's already being picked up by the screen capture software, but it'll probably get a bit louder. Okay, so that's now coming through both Ableton and Camtasia. I'm just going to turn that off again for the moment. And my output, audio output, is going to master. If I click external output, I'd have other options. So let's just, at the moment, you're pretty much always going to be using your master. Okay, and it's record enabled as well. If I turn that off, you'll notice that there's no monitoring. So I have to be record enabled to see level and to record. All right, let's have a look at how to do some recording. So I've got a shaker here, and I'm just going to try and record some shaker over the top of this sort of drum beat that we've already got. I might turn it all down just a little bit, and off I go. So basically, instead of double clicking to create a clip like I did with MIDI, and by the way, you can obviously record MIDI clips, which we'll look at some stage. I'm going to just change my count in. At the moment, there's no count in. I'm going to set this to 1 bar. So in my metronome settings, I can select 1 bar for my count in. And if I do that, let's get rid of this. When I hit record, I'm going to get a bar's metronome and count in. So I might just turn my metronome up a little bit, and I'll hit record and try and record a couple of bars of shaker. Okay, I also want to trigger the previous clip, so I'm just going to delete that, and I'm going to arm this. Okay, so now this is in focus, so ready to go. When I hit this, it's going to start playing. and spacebar to stop the recording. Okay, let's have a listen back to those together. So I'm going to turn record enable off, or record arm off. Monitoring is auto. So with off, it's not going to monitor anything. With monitoring as auto, it's going to record the input if I'm recording, or the output if there's something already on the track. And in will monitor only the input, so you can probably hear that there now. So I'll put it on auto, and I'm not record enabling, and let's have a listen to what we just recorded. Okay, so what I want to do now is trim the clip that we made, so it's something that I can loop along with the session. So let's make this a bit bigger, and I'm going to use the second 4 bars. So what I'm going to do is just use my mouse here and drag in the start point and the loop so that it starts right on bar 5, and also drag the ending point in so that it ends at the end of bar 8, or you could think of it as the beginning of bar 9 if you want. Let's have a zoom in and have a look. So my transient's a little bit off there, and we'll go to the other end and have a look at that. Well, same thing there. Let's have a listen and see if that loops up. So it's going to play just this part of the clip, and if I zoom out, you can see that it's ignoring the rest there. Let's have a listen. Okay, so it sort of works. It's a little bit out of time as well. So one thing I'd like to do in this tutorial is just have a look at some very basic warping. Okay, so warping is the process of being able to move audio around to make it sit well, wherever you want it, or to be more in time. So I'm not quite sure about this marker here. I'm going to create a new marker here by double clicking in this little grey area, and that's created a new warp marker there. Now if I move, just zooming out again, if I move just this warp marker, have a look at what happens. So all of the audio around it is moving as well, and it's constrained by the beginning and the end of the clip at this stage. That's not what I want, because it's going to shift other notes around. So let's just have another quick look. See how it's moving everything according to those points, basically the beginning and then this one. So it works like a rubber band. If you imagine that you have a rubber band and you pin it down in 2 areas and then stretch or grab in between and move them around, you'll see that behavior. So I'm going to zoom in and I'll show you what I mean here. So if I create another warp marker here and another one here, for example, now I'm stretching and moving things, or stretching and compressing everything before and after this marker up to the next markers. Okay, so that's pretty much what I want for this one. I kind of just want this on the downbeat. So let's have a listen. Actually, before we have a listen, I'll just do the same to the end transient. Let's have a look where that is. Let's move that along a bit. Just going to undo and just redo what I did here. I think I stretched something by accident there. So I'll just place these again. I just want to bring that in. And bring this in. Okay, let's have a listen now. Okay, so that's pretty close. If I wanted, I could go through and move more of these around. Or another option is to quantize. So if we have a look, let's have a look at quantize settings. And to 16th notes and 100%. Let's have a look at what happens when we do that. Okay, so I'm going to come back to warping in another video, so I'll leave that at that. I might just undo that and just leave the start and the ends how I had them. One last thing to show you here is just to crop the clip. So if I now want to make sure that I don't have the rest of that, I can crop the clip and it's going to make a new audio file essentially that's just the bit that I've got in focus here. So if I crop the clip, now I've just got that bit. I can't zoom out to the other bits anymore. And I'm just looking at what I've got here. So hit play. Okay, that's a little bit about recording audio into clips.